Have you ever pondered over the intricate web of events that have led to the current Israel-Hamas conflict? It's a narrative that's as complex as it is laden with historical, political, and ideological intricacies. It's a tale of escalating tensions, shifting alliances, and the indomitable human spirit caught in the crossfire of geopolitical power plays. The story begins in earnest with an attack by the Hamas group on Israel about a month ago. In the face of this aggression, Israel retaliated. 2 weeks later, the Israeli ground invasion of Gaza began. The question that arises here is whether Israel's intention to retaliate and destroy the Gaza group was justified, and if so, should they maintain the same momentum against the Hezbollah group? It's clear that the collateral damage in Gaza has convinced a certain group of people that Israel is the main aggressor in this event. The arithmetic of morality is not hard to grasp in this context. Any jihadist entity is an enemy of civilization. The political landscape of this conflict is intricately tied to the systemic and dogmatic ideas of Islam, Christianity, and the original Abrahamic religions. These belief systems are intimately linked to extremism against democratic bodies globally. This narrative is not about the geopolitical and military implications that would bring Iran, and by gravity Russia, into the Western perspective. Nor is it about Turkey, a current NATO member, and Qatar, financiers of Hamas, which would also bring Russia into the story along with the support of other small jihadist factions. We all know where such escalation would lead. This narrative also doesn't focus on the oppression and humiliation the Palestinian people have been literally pushed into for decades since the creation of the State of Israel. The repercussions of the atrocities committed by Israel will even be felt in the American market, which unconditionally supports these horrors and war crimes. The crux of the matter here is to analyze an ideological doctrine that claims to contain the knowledge of the moral structure of the universe. Such a belief can lead an ordinary individual to commit a wide range of atrocities, not as collateral damage, but intentional actions. For example, using their own people, women and children, as human shields and not allowing them to flee. This is the magnitude of the problem that Israel faces. The obstacle is not nationalism or the will of a nation, it is religious fanaticism. In the last 40 years, there have been approximately 50,000 jihadist attacks, and 90% of these were in Islamic countries. It's understood that these numbers are a conservative estimate of the real figures. So the question arises, how does a moral belief based on an ideal set influence the extremist behavior of certain groups? And how do individuals within these groups see themselves and others as defenders of these ideals? To fully grasp the Israel-Hamas conflict, one must delve deep into the historical, political, and ideological underpinnings that have shaped it. The narrative is not just about the tangible events on the ground, but also about the intangible ideologies that drive them. It's a complex tale of human nature, belief systems, and the relentless quest for power and control playing out on the world stage. In conclusion, the Israel-Hamas conflict is a multi-layered narrative with its roots deep in history, politics, and ideology. Understanding it requires a nuanced approach that takes into account not just the events, but the driving forces behind them. From the initial attack by Hamas to Israel's retaliation and the subsequent ground invasion of Gaza, to the role of religious fanaticism and the impact of the conflict on global politics, every facet of this narrative offers invaluable insights into the complexities of the world we live in today.
Is it possible for a moral belief grounded in an ideal to kindle the flames of extremism? Consider this: individuals within an extremist group may perceive themselves and their comrades as warriors of an immanent and transcendental truth. Yet, in this skewed perspective, they fall prey to a dangerous illusion. The world is reduced to an us versus them battleground, where killing non-believers and dying for the cause equates to winning the ultimate war. Picture a society manipulated to such an extent that it faces the greatest enemy of all, an obstinacy steeped in idealism. This extremist mindset, like a spectre, loomed over the capital invasion and the fateful day of January 8th. But let's not be hasty in pointing fingers. Actions of certain nations are also steeped in genocidal intent. Yet, they are dealing with the resolve of a people, making peaceful coexistence seemingly impossible. This brings us to the ethical trolley problem. In a specific case, the Russian perspective on their invasion of Ukraine offers insight. It's based on their military doctrine. War is the continuation of politics by other means. In Russia, this view of war as an extension of politics is heavily influenced by their military doctrine, which underscores the importance of political strategy in conducting military conflicts. War has always been employed as a political tool to achieve national objectives. It's clear that certain powerful Zionist interest groups operate under the same prism of ignorance as the jihadists. It seems as though lessons from the Holocaust have been forgotten, just as the West has forgotten the pillars of the Enlightenment. Capital interests supersede moral interests. Relativism from all sides and the need for political correctness blur the path to genuine solutions. Amid all the nuances of this topic, it's accurate to say that such idealism that drives masses to religious and political extremism wields the power of an effective birth rate. It won't be long before even Brazil, the world's second most Christian country, faces an attack against the non-believers. Another point that becomes clear in this Middle Eastern war against the chosen people is the desire to rid of Zelensky and quickly divide the spoils of what remains of Ukraine, a country already in debt and facing an impossible battle. In conclusion, while Ukraine lies in ruins and debt, all jihadist organizations such as Hamas, Hezbollah, Al-Shabaab, Al-Qaeda, Taliban, and any other Islamic extremist militia or faction should be dismantled in every possible way, logistically, economically, informationally, and materially. These are not ordinary antagonists with rational demands. The world they envision is not the world we desire. It's not politics as we know it, because it's based exclusively on imaginary orders of how the universe should function. These ordinary members exhibit behaviors more insane than the worst Western psychopaths, sincere practitioners of their religion. It's a cult of ignorance and hate.
Can you imagine a world where the ordinary becomes extraordinary, and not in a good way? A world where the most mundane of individuals harbor the most insane behaviors, reminiscent of the worst psychopaths in the Western world. This, my friends, is not a plot from a dystopian novel, but a reality we are facing today. These individuals are part of groups that pose a significant threat to the very values we hold dear: life, liberty, and human dignity. These groups show no appreciation for the principles enshrined in Enlightenment thought and universal human rights. Instead, they base their ideology on a warped view of reality, rooted in a natural law that defies morally clear standards. Their actions contradict democratic and constitutional principles that underpin Western societies. Their violent and terrorist acts highlight their complete disregard for human life and individual freedom. It is essential to recognize that these groups pose a severe threat to national and international security. Their terrorist activities violate the fundamental principles of the rule of law, undermining social stability and putting the lives and safety of citizens at risk. Thus, it is crucial that actions are taken to combat and neutralize these jihadist organizations in all possible ways, within legal limits and respecting human rights. The logistical, economic, and informational destruction of these groups is vital to preserving Western values and ensuring the safety of society as a whole. These realities may seem distant to some, but they are closer than we think. These groups, these individuals, they are not just a threat to some far-off land. They are a threat to you, to me, to our way of life. This is not a political issue. This is an issue of our fundamental human rights. It is time to stop turning a blind eye to these atrocities. It is time to stop pretending that these issues do not affect us. It is time to stand up, to speak out, to fight back. It is time to say no more. This is not the world we want. This is not the world we deserve. And it is certainly not the world we are going to accept. Stand for life. Stand for liberty. Stand for human dignity. Stand against these organizations that threaten our values, our peace, and our security. Stand up, speak out, and let your voice be heard. Because if not us, then who? And if not now, then when?